911 dispatch, where is your emergency?
When you have an emergency at any time, day or night, it's comforting to know that to get help, all you need to know are the 3 numbers 911. After dialing, you can be assured that your call will be answered promptly by emergency dispatchers, who will immediately try to gather from you the information they need to dispatch the appropriate emergency responders to assist you. Of course, most adults are aware of dialing 911 when there's an emergency. But what about children? In numerous cases from across the country, young children have called 911 and ended up saving lives. Teaching our children when and how to call 911 is part of the basic education we should give them at the earliest possible age. The first part, teaching young children when to dial 911, is fairly easy. If there is someone hurt, they see something dangerous, scary, or just not right, and there is no parent or adult around or able to help them, they should call 911. It may or may not be a true emergency situation, but it's always better to err on the side of caution. But the second part, teaching young children how to use 911 properly, is more than just having them memorize 3 numbers. There's a bit more to it than that. Here's why. Traditionally, when you call 911 from a standard landline in your home, the dispatcher views on the screen the phone number you're calling from, the name associated with that phone line, and the address you're calling from. In this case, all the dispatcher really needs to do is confirm this information and the nature of the emergency. They can then immediately dispatch the appropriate emergency responders to your address. But this traditional model of how 911 works has been made a bit more complicated, as this device, the cell phone, has changed everything. The majority of calls to 911 now come from cell phones. And while they're handy for their mobility, they also present some unique challenges for 911 dispatchers and some added responsibilities that adults need to teach their children about using 911. As mentioned, when a child uses a traditional landline phone to dial 911, the operator knows exactly what address they are calling from. So even if the child is unable to fully communicate their location when using a landline, the dispatcher knows exactly where they are calling from and can send assistance. But when a cell phone is used to call 911, despite what you may have seen on some TV shows, the ability of the dispatcher to know a cell phone caller's exact location is not precise, only to within 100 yards or so. This puts an additional responsibility on the caller to be able to clearly communicate their exact location. And that additional responsibility on the 911 caller to know their exact location also means that there is an additional responsibility on adults to have children memorize their basic street address.
We live at 231 South Chambers Road. I'm in the backyard. My daddy fell down.
Okay, 231 South Chambers Road.
With the precise address location from the child, along with the nature of the emergency if possible, the 911 dispatcher can then send the emergency responders to an exact location. And those minutes they don't have to spend searching can be life-saving minutes. When teaching children their exact address, pay attention to the precise details, such as whether it is a street, circle, or avenue, or east, west, north, or south. This prevents any confusion for emergency personnel in responding.
See, up there, the numbers?
And there is one more thing overlooked when teaching children about 911 and using cell phones. Because we frequently use one-touch button or memory dialing, not surprisingly, children often have no idea what their own phone number is. It is critical that children learn their own cell phone number. If a child dials 911, the dispatcher will usually try to keep them on the phone until emergency personnel arrive on scene. But sometimes, for many reasons, the caller gets disconnected. If the child was able to give the 911 dispatcher their cell phone number, and if the call gets disconnected, the dispatcher can quickly call them back.
Okay, good job, all right?
So remember, while having children learn the 3-digit 911 number is certainly essential, the best practice involves 3 additional steps. Teach them when to call, which is any time there is someone hurt, they see something dangerous, scary, or just not right, and there is no parent or adult around or able to help them. Have them memorize their exact street address, paying particular attention to such details as street, way, circle, drive, and east, west, north, or south. And have them memorize their own cell phone number. If disconnected, the dispatcher will then be able to call them back. Adding these simple additional steps when teaching kids about 911 will ensure that, should the need ever arise, emergency personnel will have the best chance of responding promptly to the right location.